It is good to meet here now as human beings here on earth to explore a very interesting question. And that very interesting question is, what on earth am I doing here on earth? Have you ever asked yourself that? Or have we been caught up in the excitement of life with all the money making and the human contacts and the machinery of life? Have we been so overwhelmed by that that we've forgotten something tremendously important? Again, the question, what am I doing here on this earth as an individual human being? And hopefully it will occur to us after a while that just maybe our purpose here on this globe isn't to come into it and just be frightened, just be bewildered, just be walking in a fog through all our days. Maybe a question mark will appear in our mind, and we'll say to ourselves, is it possible that there is something higher here in this world than this mad chasing around that I do and everyone else does? You know, the problem is we're very gullible, very suggestible. We come to the world as little children, we grow up, and we see our parents chasing around. We see our friends who are so active in this and that, and we immediately become worshipers of activity. And never questioning what that is all about. The activity of commerce, of religion, of getting married. The activity of running around in this world trying to find something to do with ourselves, until, strangely enough, we come to worship activity itself. Doing something that seems to be the object of everyone's life. And all these activities, where do they lead? Now, I'll ask you and you tell me, do all this chasing around, all this running that you do, has it ever led you to anything except more confusion? Except to the need for another activity, a new man in your life, a new woman, a new place to go to, a new occupation, a new hobby. And all the time, way back in our mind is indeed the question, what is it all about? Why don't we bring the question out into the open? Why don't we examine and see what's going on inside of ourselves as a scientist? Examine to see what's going on within in our minds, in our emotions, in an attempt to understand ourselves, to see what might be beyond the heartache. Now, if I was to ask all of you whether you're lonely, you'd have to real honestly answer yes, wouldn't you? You'd have to. Of course you are. You've got a family and friends, and you're chasing around yourself, and you're still lonely. You feel isolated. If I was to ask you if you spend a good deal of your time and your energy trying to prove that you're right when you're wrong, you'd have to answer yes to that also, wouldn't you? Let's look at that a little closer. Here we are, wrong people, filled with these emotions that are so harsh to us and to others. And instead of investigating them, we protect them. And we say, well, I must have it, this feeling, therefore it must be all right because it belongs to me. Are you telling me that it's right to be under stress and strain all the time? Are you telling me that that's a good thing? Is anger a good thing or a bad thing? It's a bad thing because when you're angry, you were separated from your real nature, just for one thing, but we could get more simpler than that. When you're angry, when you're in a rage, don't you justify it. Now you stop that. You stop saying your anger is all right. Why do you have to insist that it is? And you are. I know you are. You may not know it, but I know it. And I know why you justify it. You justify it, your rage and your fury which you've suppressed. You justify it because you have taken it as being a part of you, as a part of your necessary appliances for getting through this world. Would you like to find out something? Would you like to find out that anger, envy, self-pity, loneliness, which you cling to so desperately, wouldn't you like to find out that that is the enemy? What do we take as the enemy then now? We take as the enemy truth itself, which tries to get through our thick heads, which tries to penetrate and to explain. It's not trying to attack as we think. We resist truth because there's something wrong with us, and we think truth is going to take something valuable away. It's going to give us something truly valuable, but not seeing that, we fight and resist. And listen to this. We fight and resist reality, which wants to give us a new life, and a result of that, listen to this tragedy. We remain as we are. While we're here discussing, would you, to yourself please, like to discuss and describe your life to yourself? What's it like? Come on. I'm talking about internally, not the phony pretense, not the smiles we put on when we're out in public, not the confidence that we like to display as if it was real, which isn't there at all, and you know it. Wouldn't you like to explore that in order to see whether or not there is something different? I will tell you that there is, and I will also tell you that any individual who finds a higher life is an individual who has said to himself, look, here I am. Now look, I am a problem. Never mind people out there, what problem they are to me. I am a problem to myself. I'm going to investigate it inside myself and see where I am not thinking clearly. What a beautiful and simple statement that is. And so you start to look inside yourself. You begin to see how many things there are inside of you that are wrecking your life. But here's the problem. Let me make it clear to you. When we see anything wrong inside, anger, fury, we immediately want to deny it. We deny it because we also have self-images of being a non-angry person. We have images of being a person who's calm, who's poised. It is a fake and you know it, isn't it? What's wrong with seeing through our fakery? There is everything right about it. Let's go over that again. There's everything wrong about lying about the inner condition, right? Therefore, there is everything right about facing it and seeing what happens as a result of this beautiful self-honesty of saying to yourself, you know, that's absolutely right. I'm petty. I'm childish. I'm putting on a front. I pretend in front of the world out there to be strong, to know what I'm talking about, to know what life is all about. But I don't know in reality, because when I'm all alone, I do all sorts of things that prove that I don't really know, including crying, including being furious at a world that I think has surrounded me. In other words, the breakdown. You know what I mean by a breakdown? You put an actor goes on stage, and he's doing pretty well for a while. He's rehearsed the script, and he thinks he has the audience convinced, and he does up until a certain point. And then something happens, and he forgets the role. And right in front of all those people, he breaks down, and he feels ashamed, and he wants to flee the stage. This is why everyone on earth rehearses their script over and over and over and make sure the costume is just right and the cap is set at just the right angle. Everyone is on stage and you know it. You sense it. Now, if other people want to go around being unreal, which is misery, what is that to do with you? If other people want to pretend to be happy, which is a stage performance, what is that to do with you? You don't have to go along with society. You don't have to be on the stage that it is on. You don't have to be a part of the madness of pretending that you know the answers to life. All you have to do is say, I don't know the answers. And if you did that, for the first time in your life, you would have made an honest spiritual statement. That is, you're seeing that you're out there and you know that you're an actor, you know that you're an actress. And why are you doing that, by the way? Because in this world, there are great rewards for people who become great actors and actresses. They're applauded, right? They're given great honor. They're given high salaries. They parade themselves out in front of the world as someone who knows the answer. Let me tell you what happens to them when they get off the stage and go home. Well, I've told you, and I'll repeat it in another way. They break down. They're scared. They don't know what's going to become of them, but they are so thoroughly trapped by their stage performance that with great weariness and great sorrow, they get up in the morning and they put on the costume again, the cap and the coat and the bright buttons. And they take a look at their script and make sure that they say the right things to the right people. Let me ask you, please, do you understand that I'm describing the world as it really is? If you have begun to see the stage actor inside yourself, having seen through yourself, you will then see through the world that this is what everyone is doing. What is the results of every effort to save the world? The result is the world gets more lost than it was before. So that means that real people are not in charge of the world, real people are not running it, but people who have the skills of acting. Let me ask you, would you like to not have to get up in the morning and laboriously put on the costume and put on the right makeup and rehearse the script in front of that person or that boss or that friend or whoever? Would you like to not have to go to the stage at all anymore? Isn't it tiring to have to do it every day, to go through the same routine, to try to get a little bit of stupid applause? Now, let me tell you, there is such a thing as a true spiritual existence. There is such a thing as you living right in the middle of this stage called the world. There's such a thing as you living right in the middle of it, going down to that office, having a family, doing whatever. There is such a thing as you being right in the middle of it and not being punished by it. Because you can be right in the middle of this world and not be an actor or actress. You know what the alternative is? Listen to this. You can be real. To carry the parallel a little further, an actor goes on stage, he isn't real, is he? He has to be very careful that he doesn't goof it out there in front of all those people watching. He has to be very careful that he says things just right so that people will say, what a great performance. We will reward that. Will you stop wanting rewards for a mere performance? Will you get off of that stage? Will you forget the script? Will you refuse to put on the uniform anymore and going out there? You're not going to do it overnight. because the force of habit is so powerful. And we're so unaware of ourselves that we are indeed making ourselves up for the stage, for the approval of other people. Think of that phrase. Also, think of your daily life, how you behave in front of other people, how you smile when you really don't want to smile, how you give gifts to people and you really don't want to give them gifts. But you feel compelled to do this because you're insecure. And so you say, if I behave in a phony, nice way, and it is phony, if you have to contrive to be nice, you're not nice at all. You're playing the role, right? You say, I have to go out and please these people in order to impress them so that they will be nice to me. Now, why do you want them to be nice to you? Be prepared for a shock. You want them, just as an audience applauds an actor, you want them to applaud you so that you can feel that your role is real, but it isn't real. So you don't need the applause. You're following the parallel, are you not, between stage performance and life as it is? All right. Then follow this. An actor is weary with the role. He'd been playing it on Broadway or in the movies or wherever for years and years. And he's getting a little tired of it. He's getting tired of the same repetitious behavior and the defenses that he has to act out. And he's just utterly tired of it. So the actor, the professional actor, says, I'm going to quit the role. I'm walking off stage. So he does. He gets off, and he's able to do what he wants to do. Instead of going to the theater every day, he can do something much nicer, whatever he wants to do. With us, we can stop going to the theater every morning and putting on a performance so that people will applaud us, because we finally discover that there is another identity inside that is not a fake, that is not acting, that doesn't have to have a script, that doesn't have to have applause, that doesn't have to worry whether you're going to put on a good performance or not. That worries you, doesn't it? You know, I wonder if I'm going to please that man. And the lady worries. And the man worries, well, if I'm going to please that woman. And so you're apart from your real nature in just a small role like that, just wanting to make a good impression so that you would feel secure over their approval. How come? How come with all the hundreds and thousands of people that you have compromised with, that you have submitted to, how come with all their smiles back at you, their approval of your performance, how come you're still shaky? Isn't that evidence in itself that it's a waste of time, that it's a waste of your life to go out there on that stage anymore? Doesn't it occur to you that something drastic has to be done? Now I'll tell you what it is. See that you are indeed an actor. See that you are indeed an actress with all these false desires, all these desires to please people so that they'll be pleased with you, so that you can feel secure. The seeing of the wrongness of acting is the beginning of the end of it. Now, I want to tell you, if any of you have made up your mind that you're going to start seeing through yourself, which is a beautiful thing, you have a beautiful outcome, I want you to know that at the start, so you'll understand, to know that there will be great resistance to it when you start. You see, here's back to the professional actor again. He goes on stage and he gets a lot of money for it, high pay, right? And all the applause and all the women and the men who crowd around him, admiring him, praising him. He's going to have a lot of resistance if the thought occurs to him to give up the role, isn't he? All right, likewise with us. You have to see and understand this for yourself, of the great, powerful resistance and rejection of the need to go off the stage and stay off. And here's why. This is very crucial for you to comprehend. You say to yourself, if I'm going to stop going down and playing that phony role in my life in front of other people in this mad social stage, if I'm going to stop doing that, what's going to take its place? If I'm not going down to the theater and be a big fake again all day long, what will I do with myself? And you're terrified at the thought of having an empty existence. Don't you know that you have one by going to the theater? You have an empty existence by being a fake. You have no real life. Will you agree that you're very nervous out on that stage? All those people looking up at you, you're worried that you make the slightest mistake in the script, that they're going to criticize you or walk out on you. So the great fear is that we'll have nothing to do with ourselves. That what will I do with myself all day long? Why do you ask that question? It's because you don't fully understand. And if you were to do things in the right order, you would find that the question itself would vanish because it's a wrong question. And we'll go into that a little bit. You're tired of faking. You're tired of compromising with people, of being gullible, of trying to buy their friendship, for example. And so you say, this is as far as I'm going. I'm stopping that. I want to understand what it means to be real, so I'm going to stop being fake as a means of starting to be real. You give up one little thing. You can only do little things at the start because the habit is so strong inside of us. So you give up one little thing, for example, calling someone that you think will compliment you. You give that up, and you feel a little bit of anxiety, and you begin to understand everything that we're talking about here. You begin to understand that there's a resistance, but you go ahead in spite of that. And little by little, you get off the stage a little bit more and more. And as you do that, you see that something much higher than your ordinary life, 1,000,000 miles higher, is taking its place. And you understand that your anxiety over what would become of you if you give up your acting, you understand that what takes its place comes automatically, and that's called reality. That's called something 10 million miles higher than the way most people live and the way you have lived in the past. You understand that truth is very faithful. If you will give up what you must give up, if you will give up negativity, then what is authentically positive will come of itself. Now you have to discover this for yourself, and you will discover that it is a fact. You will discover that truth is very faithful to you, to each one of you as individuals, if you will do what you must do. Truth, reality, God, if you prefer that term, truth will come in and do what it has promised to do. It will never fail you as you have failed yourself all these years. Wouldn't you like to find something that won't fail you? Something that to be strong all the time under every possible circumstance, so that wherever you go, you're in charge of that circumstance, that condition, that crisis. You're in charge of it because you are in charge of yourself in a new way, in a higher way, in a way which is absolute, where you look at another person's face and their scowl or their blank expression doesn't scare you. You are in charge absolutely. And you can have it. That'll be enough for now.